Hi, it's Pete the Bumbling Modeler back. I've got a few projects on the go at the moment, so you'll notice them on the desk around me, but we're back initially with this Suzuki. So I've been waiting for the microphones to charge actually so I could record this. So what have we done? Let's get these off. I don't need them all off. So I've been playing around tidying up the next batch of parts that need spraying. So I got some blue on the mud guard and I've masked that off to spray the black pinstripes. I've got to mask off this seat cowl to get it done on that, which I'll do today. That's as good as finished. Apart from the gloss coats, obviously. The back wheel assembly was done, but I've been looking at it and I can't really put this on until I get the exhausts on. They're a bit fiddly around here to get a blob of glue on, so I think it's easier to get them on and feed the swing arm through than the other way around. And I will need to do a little bit of detail painting on these areas. There's also no provision for the brake hose into the rear caliper, so I'm going to have to drill for a little bit of wire so I can put a bit of hose up to the foot pedal. So that'll all be done sort of in the background. Exhaust wise, I've just given them a clean up to get rid of the worst of the seam lines on. So I've done that with my scraper so I can be quite precise where I'm dragging along here, so I'm not altering the profile too much. Then sanding sponge, soft sanding sponge just to finish it off. I'm not gonna worry too much about these areas in the hollows because you won't see them on the bike. If they're more visible, I'd pack them out with plastic, then put a skim of filler over it, but I don't think that's going to be something I need to worry about. What I will need to do though is, looking at it, seems very dark in here today, is where the end of the exhaust tips fit on, and there's a bit of a ridge there. So I'll put another light on because it does seem very dark. Hang on a minute. This one doesn't always play ball. Quite better. There's this little ridge. So what I'll do is I'll glue these on, then profile that in, because looking at photos, the exhaust will be made with bands welded that way, not in the seam that way. So that'll be easy enough to do. But to prepare these, when I looked at them, I don't know if you can pick it up, there's a little groove around there, and I guess that's so you can take out the exhaust tips to decoat them and get the carbon out of them. So it wasn't very well defined. So what I did was, where's my scalpel? Got my scalpel and carefully ran it down the very shallow groove that was in there to make a slightly deeper groove. Then got this razor saw, and then I couldn't do it on camera actually because my head was leant right over the desk. Then got the razor saw and just made that slightly wider by sawing all the way around. And then you've got this more pronounced exhaust tip here, which will take a wash, and I might actually paint the tip a slightly different shade of steel when I do it. I'll do these as burnt iron, and I might keep them as stainless steel. I'll have a look at photos and see, but either way, that groove's now there. So I've done that to 4 of those, so they're ready to glue onto the exhaust so I can fill the gaps. 1 or 2 of them, the saw slipped, and I've got a bit of a slash further down, so I've gone over that with a little bit of the old extra thin, and that's softened that slash, but also I can position that so that's on the inside of the exhaust so you'll never see it, and the good edge is on the outside. So it's cheating a bit, but that'll do. So they're ready to go. That's a pin that just holds the rear swing arm in. Radiator's all cleaned up, ready to go, but in doing that, you see me use a file quite often, and why I like to use a file is you've got these little flanges here, little raised ridges. If you use a sanding stick, it's easy to obscure them, so to clean that up, I was just holding it against that flange and bringing the file across to get rid of all the grot, and then you get that prominent ridge stays, and that nice hard edge just cleans up that inner face. Then you go over it with a sponge later on and just polish it up to get all the file marks out. So that's ready for primer. Discs aren't anything special. Again, the front wheel, same as last time. I've just attacked it with a scraper to get the worst of the... I've missed a bit of seam there. Get the worst of the seams off on the mould lines, but I want to leave a bit of it because the real thing was cast, so it would have had a natural seam line anyway, so just not as prominent as what we've got. So I don't know why I missed that bit. So it's just a case of gently going around doing that. And now we come to the other thing, which is the fork legs. Now they've come in chrome, so you've got these chrome sliders, but that, if it was a larger scale car bumper, you could probably get away with it, but that just looks too ugh for me. So what I'll do, and it might not work this time, it sometimes does, is somewhere, I've got some polythene bags here. Chuck these in a poly bag. Now, with Tamiya, I found Mr. Muscle oven cleaner will strip the chrome off okay. With Bell Kits and Hasegawa, I found it's not as effective, but I think they might use a chrome paint rather than a plating process. I believe you can use bleach, but I just can't stand the smell of bleach, I'll be honest. So for me, this is the best option. So just squirt a load of that in there. Put the lid back on there. Close up the Ziploc bag, and that will strip the chrome off those. It's starting to lift it already, actually. So yeah, the Tamiya stuff does respond quite well to that. So I'll leave that there for 10 minutes or so. So they'll be dechromed. And at the same time, I've cleaned up the handlebars, because these top edges here will need to be the same chrome as the fork legs, as they are in essence the fork stanchions sliding through the clip-on handlebars. So I'll have to spray those the same way I spray the chrome, mask them off, and then detail paint that. So that's where we are on the Suzuki. I shall plod on and do a bit more, but really it's just today is going to be a case of gluing parts together and letting the glue cure, like these exhaust stacks, so we can blend and fill that joint in ready for fitting them. Priming these parts apart from the exhaust, obviously, and just getting ready for the next phase of things. I don't want to put too much more, speaking too fast again, I don't want to put too much more on the engine as yet, because I've got little bits of fiddling about to do. So the clutch cable, according to the instructions, goes into that hole there. In reality, it goes into that little mechanism there, so I need to do something about that so the clutch cable can come out and wander up here. I need to fit those hoses on the top once I've got the radiator on. I need to get a hydraulic line from the brake master cylinder there down to the back brake, so I need to look at that. Put the exhaust coils on, and these little lumps here are actually rubber pads to stop the tank vibrating, so I need to paint them. They're a mustard yellow actually on the actual bike, but it doesn't, sometimes reality doesn't work, so I'll paint them something like a rubber black or a German grey just to sort that out. And then the whole frame needs gluing together here. So next time you see it, we should be able to be these being filled and had the basic coats of paint, and the chrome fork legs should be underway, because I need to put a 2-pack gloss on with the chrome system using. That's why I'm rushing to get the rest of the bodywork done, so we can get this masked off and sprayed. If we can get decals finished on this thing, I can get the 2-pack out and we can start to work on the chrome on the bike and the gloss work on the bike. So that's where we are for now. I'll catch up with you later on. Okay, so that's been about an hour of fiddly masking. So this is completely masked for the black. So next stage for this is this coat of clear varnish just to seal in the masking tape, and then some matte black. The seat unit, I've masked, ready to spray this blue, and the process is going to be spray blue, or clear coat, spray blue, take off the masking tape, and then remask the black stripe. That way, if there's any creep underneath the blue this time, from the blue into the white, I can just move the masking tape down a touch and just touch it up, particularly around these areas, because the trouble I did last time, I did everything in one go, and when I had some creep, I had no room to manoeuvre. So I think get the blue on, make sure I've got a hard demarcation line all the way around, and then I can mask for the white, for the black stripe. So that should do it. I'm just checking. Haven't made a boob. Now everything's on the inside, so the white stripe's wider. So yeah, I'll get the clear coats on these, get them sprayed, then you'll eventually see them in their finished guise. Okay, this is going to be the last bit on faffing about with pinstripes. So I've tidied up this side. That radius doesn't quite match there, but I'm going to live with that. But we've still got these fuzzy edges and an uneven sort of line on that black. So what I'm doing for the final touch-ups is getting a bit of masking tape, and you need the Tamiya stuff because it's nice and thin. Popping that over the area you're not happy with. Getting a pencil and just sort of looking at it and saying, okay, that line needs to be a little bit broader there, and I'm on the wrong side of it. It needs to tighten up a bit around there. Then peel it off. You've got your lines. Make a nice neat mask with a decent curve to it. Slap that on and spray it on. So that's kind of what I'm doing now, just to finish off that last bit. So I've really got this corner to do. I may try and do something with that radii, but I don't know on that one. And then I'm going to get ready to gloss coat it. So we're almost there on the bodywork of it. I noticed one of these stripes was slightly wider than the other, so I've done the same thing on that. Just made a new mask, corrected it and sprayed on the black, so out the white to make it narrower. So it's all possible, but that's where we are on this at the moment. Thank you. Well, I did say thank you. Okay, so I'm back again now, and we're going to call this quite a productive afternoon. So not much has happened in terms of priming, but I've got the yellow painted onto the fairing for the number boards. I will have to put a black pinstripe around the edge of that, but I've only just painted it on that will harden, so it'll end up looking like the front one there with the black and yellow. Seat, that masking tape is marking that blue paint. It doesn't seem to harden very much. Seat unit, the pinstriping is way better than it was. It's still a bit messy in these areas, but I can cut little local curved masks and just tidy that bit up. But there's a consistent line thickness all the way through, so I'm happy with that, or happier I can get away with that. Front mudguard, back end of it's a bit tatty, but I'm not too fussed because you're never going to see that one. That's sitting in the forks. It's going to be right under here, so it's not really going to be that visible, but the front's okay. And the bit I'm the most happy with is I've got it right, so it does line up with the tank. So as you go right through, everything is the same width. so it doesn't look a bit odd. So hopefully that's not off camera. So I've got consistent set stripes over that, which is what I was aiming for. Fork legs, I've had the chrome stripped successfully. That yellowy tinge is just some pre-plating they do. The primer I use sticks to it okay. I can try and polish a bit more of it off, but I don't want to damage too much of the fork. I think the chrome on these is an aluminium plating, so it needs this almost like a primer layer. But anyway, there's a lot more detail on them now. It's the chrome's gone. So tidy up and prime those. Prime this lot, and I'll wait till I've got these exhausts all fed in, and I can't really do that till the glue's shrunk back properly, because it's going to leave a line. I have started the process, so these two, they are all blended in now, but in a day or two that line will open up again, so I'll wait till that happens, fill it, do it, and then we can spray them. So I think the next area will be building up the front end, doing some detail painting on the frame, sorting out something for that clutch release mechanism, of which I've got an idea, touching all the little bolt heads with silver. Then we can really start to chunk it together, but I need to get some priming and painting done because I want to get all the sub-assemblies painted before I throw them on. But yeah, I'm happy with the way that yellow's turned out with a black border around that. It'll look okay. They're a bit small, but they're as reference photos, so that's okay. So yeah, we'll leave that there, and you'll see a bit more of it again soon. Sorry, get myself settled. Okay, so with the Suzuki, we're sort of bodywork 99% finished, and I've started on some other bits and pieces. So to start off with the fairing and the tank and what have you, I'll pick up the tank first to show it. That's had a clear coat on it, and hopefully you'll pick up that's really shiny, but you can see flecks of dust and bits of dog hair and things in that. So we've got to deal with that. But what I've used for a clear coat is this Pro Scale 2K clear. It's one of these things that's awkward to say I recommend this to people, because I would. It's the best clear I've used, but I'm conscious that it's quite toxic and unpleasant to use. It's an industrial product bottled up for modelers, really. So yes, it gives you a rock hard clear finish. That's dull, but I'll explain why in a minute. But it's just not good for you at all. So I use it with a full bench vent extraction system I've got, and I also, when I say reaching behind and clunking round, wear a 3M face mask, and these are vapor filters, not dust filters, so I'm taking every precaution with it. And I spray that last thing in the day, keep the mask on till the shed door's shut, just walk out and leave it to cure. So in that respect, I'm quite comfortable using it, and it does give the best finish I've had, but I wouldn't recommend it. But as I say, there's bits of dustiness and that, so what I'm doing to overcome the dust, because it's so hard, you can knock it back without blowing through. So a bit of a dirty mark on that, actually, but I don't know if it's blown through the paint, but it's staying no matter what it is. I've got a little piece of Triazac pad, and I use Triazac pad because everyone else uses Triazac and I'm a bit of a sheep. I've got some water here, and all I do is splash a bit of water on me chopping max, it doesn't matter. Get me Triazac, and you look for the areas where you've got the dust and the crud in it, and gently sand it back. And what you're trying to do is, being careful around corners and edges, sand that back so you get a perfectly flat texture like that. There's a few ripples in there. And this gets rid of all the orange peel and the dust and the ripples and the marks in it, and just gently work your way around all of the glossy bits. Get a paper towel. Now if you're careful, this finish is hard enough to accept that level of abuse, so you can see where there's some slight marks there which are probably fingerprints at some point in the paint. There's a little bit of dustiness in that, so it's just a case of going in there, making sure all those raised areas, it's got blue on it from another project, don't worry, that all comes off, raised areas and bits of dust get flattened out so you get a perfectly flat finish. And I'll do this off camera because that made me jump. I was going to say it's like watching paint dry, but it's quite the opposite. So you flatten that all off till you get a nice smooth finish. And then I've done it completely on this side. There's a few little marks there which are never going to come out. And then we'll polish back up with Tamiya polishing compound. So at the moment when you look at that, it's a bit like looking at a toffee apple. You've got quite a thick glossy finish and it's a bit thick around the edges where it's all clung on. So you flatten it all back, get it smooth, then polish it up, and then you get a more scale-like shine. So that's what we'll be doing with that. I won't share any more of that. I'll just do that off camera. So next time you see it, it'll be at its finished gloss. So what else has been going on? Why I did the 2K clear on the fairing, I painted the chrome part of the fork legs a black primer colour, and I've gone over that with the 2K to get a high gloss finish on that, which again I'll polish up a little bit. So both the fork legs have got that high gloss, and somewhere amongst all this, oh yeah, the top of the forks, I've had to gloss it because these little bits up here will be the same chrome, so I'm going to have to spray them at the same time. Now for the chrome, I'm going to use a Pro Scale, who's the guy who makes this chrome paint, because he's got a system whereby you get that high gloss finish, you spray his chrome paint on it, you then put a protective layer of, I think it's like an aqueous clear coat on it, but you put that clear coat on, then you can go over it with another coat of 2K and it brings the shine back, but then you can rub it and handle it like any other paint, whereas if the conventional chrome systems just rub off straight away. So I like his system of doing it. Again, it'll take forever before you see it because I've got to chrome this, let it dry, clear it, let it dry, 2K it, let it dry, and then polish it back. But you will get a durable chrome finishing handle, so you'll see that when that's done. So that's well on the way to being sorted. Why I had the black primer out for that, I've just given the exhaust a squirt of black just to look for the join where we join those silencer cans on, and they're all relatively smooth, so they can have their coat of stainless steel on them soon. And what else? Oh yes, these. I needed to make some. I cut the original coils off the frame to make it easier to spray. So ignition coils, that is. So I looked on eBay because you can still buy spare parts for these from historic racing bikes, and it seemed to be a main coil body, then two little cylinders underneath where the ignition wires were coming out. So I just sized them by eye and I used some 2mm styrene strip for the main body, and those two little under slung bits there I've used some 1.2mm diameter styrene strip. I've drilled them out to 0.5mm diameter and inserted some lengths of this. It's a copper coated aluminium wire, so that's what you see sticking out there. So once they're glued onto the frame, I can slide the ignition wires onto that and join them up to the cylinders. So I'll get them done before you see it again, and I'll probably put a bit of aluminium glue them with super glue and put a bit of aluminium tape as though they're held on with some sort of hose clip, so it's not strictly speaking accurate, but I think it'll look okay for what we're doing. So that's them, and with those I didn't want to paint them black because they're like a black plastic, so I've used this AK German grey, Dunkel grey, and that's basically I use that because you can brush paint it without leaving any sort of obvious lines rather than fire up an airbrush just for that. So I've got those two little fellas to be glued on. And then we can start, once the chrome's on those fork legs, we can start getting the front end together and stand it up on its wheels for the first time. So that's where we are. Hopefully next time you see it, we'll be talking about putting the engine ancillaries on, getting the radiator on, getting these little hoses on, putting any little hose clamps on we need, that sort of thing. Once getting the exhaust sprayed up, once they're sprayed, they can go in, the rear end can go on, and then we'll start to see some sort of real progress on it. So that's where we are for now. Thanks for watching, and hopefully next time you see it, it'll look a bit more like a motorbike and less like a load of scrap plastic. So I'll see you soon. Okay, I'll just show this last little bit. I wasn't going to do this now, but I have just, so you saw me flatten this off, and now I've brought it back with a polish and put wax on the top, and I'm not sure if you'll pick it up on the video that well, but both of these looked pretty shiny straight out of the brush, but I can see sort of slight ripples and imperfections in the tank, and it's a little bit too glossy for its own good, really. It looks a bit toy-like and plasticky. Same with the seat fairing. Although it's shiny, it looks shiny, not polished. So by flattening it back and bringing it up, you get a more realistic sheen across the whole surface, and the layers of paint where they build up aren't as harsh. It smooths out when you look at it, and you just get that more, it's a slightly duller shine. Needs a bit more polish taken off there. It's a slightly duller shine, but it's a bit more in keeping with the model and in scale, so hopefully you can pick that up. And that's why you go to the trouble of making it really glossy, flattening it back, then bringing it back to a gloss again. It's just to get that realistic sheen you're happy with. I mean, I like most model makers. I'm not happy with that. I can see imperfections with it all the way through, but I'm happy with it, as I know that's as good as I could get it for this particular model with the methods I used to paint it. So I shall switch this off now, put this into the editing software, and you'll see this. Well, obviously you'll see it now because you're seeing it, and then over the next week I'll make a bit more progress on the ancillary bits so we can get the model together like I said previously. So that's it for this part 7, and we'll leave it there.